When people hear a title like 5 Daily Actions That Unlock Your True Power, they think it sounds dramatic, maybe even exaggerated. But I learned something very early in my life. Power is never one big moment. Power is the accumulation of tiny decisions that most people are too distracted to notice. When I was younger, I wasn't strong, I wasn't smart, and honestly, I wasn't impressive at all. I failed exams, I was rejected by schools, and even KFC didn't hire me. But looking back now, I realized that the reason I eventually built Alibaba wasn't because I suddenly became great. It was because I started doing a few small things every day that slowly reshaped who I was. Most people wait for inspiration, or luck, or some magical opportunity. But luck, as people love to call it, only comes when you have been preparing quietly for years. That preparation is nothing more than a series of daily actions. Simple actions. Almost boring actions. Actions so small that the average person will roll their eyes at them. But that's exactly why they work. Because while the world is busy chasing motivation, you are building discipline. While others are waiting for a breakthrough, you are creating 1% of a breakthrough every single day. I call these small habits the 5 doors of power. Every day you choose whether to open them or walk past them. And each time you open one, you step into a version of yourself that is a little stronger, a little wiser, and a little more in control. People think I became powerful because of some big win, but the truth is much simpler. I just kept opening these doors when everyone else was too tired, or too afraid, or too distracted. That is the secret you must understand. True power doesn't arrive. It is unlocked. One small action at a time. When people ask me how to change their life, they always want a complicated answer. They want to hear about strategy, technology, or some secret business formula. But I tell them something very simple. Show me. Your first hour of the day and I can predict your future. When I was younger, I wasted my mornings just like everyone else. I woke up late, rushed everywhere, reacted to problems instead of creating solutions. My mind was always chasing the world, never leading it. And every year felt the same because every morning was the same. The day your life begins to change is the day you decide to lead your morning instead of letting your morning lead you. The first hour is when your excuses are asleep and your intentions are awake. It's the only time of the day when the world is quiet enough for you to hear your own thoughts. Winners use that hour to design their day. Losers use it to scroll, complain, or rush. The difference seems small, but small differences repeated daily create completely different destinies. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments, and that bridge is built in the first 60 minutes after you open your eyes. When I started Alibaba, we didn't have money, talent, technology, or even a proper office. But we had mornings, and every morning I used that first hour to ask myself one question. What can I control today? Not what I feared, not what I lacked, what I could control. That simple ritual built more confidence and clarity than any motivational speech ever could. Because when you control your first hour, you control your direction. And when you control your direction, even chaos cannot shake you. Most people want a powerful life, but they start every day in weakness, reacting, rushing, and repeating yesterday's mistakes. Don't be like them. Power is not something you discover later. It is something you build early, before the world wakes up. When people think about becoming powerful, they imagine adding more skills, more work, more hustle. But I learned something different. Your power doesn't grow because you add more, it grows because you remove what's silently draining you. When I was young, I wasted so much energy on things that did nothing for my future. I argued with people who would never change. I tried to impress people who didn't care about me. I let small fears dictate big decisions. And every night, I felt exhausted without moving an inch forward. That's when I realized it wasn't the world holding me back. It was my own weaknesses. Most people don't fail because they lack strength. They fail because they refuse to subtract what weakens them. Every day, you must remove one weakness, just one. It might be a distraction that steals your focus. It might be a habit that keeps you comfortable. It might be a person who drains your confidence. It might be a fear that tells you to stay small. Power grows the moment you stop feeding what destroys it. I remember a time when Alibaba was still nothing, just a small group of dreamers in my apartment. We didn't have money, but we had energy. And I realized that every argument, every complaint, every emotional overreaction drained that energy. So I made a rule for myself. Remove one weakness every day. Some days it was avoiding a pointless argument. Some days it was refusing to doubt myself. Some days it was walking away from people who brought confusion instead of clarity. Little by little, the fog around my goals began to clear. I wasn't fighting the world anymore. I was outgrowing it. This is how transformation works. Not in explosions, but in quiet removals. You don't become powerful by adding layers. You become powerful by shedding everything that keeps you from rising. The lighter you become, the further you can go. If you truly want to unlock your power, you must be willing to look in the mirror and ask the questions that most people run from. I learned this the hard way. For many years, I avoided difficult truths because they made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to admit that I was afraid, or that I lacked skill, or that my dreams were bigger than my discipline. Most people live their whole lives this way, pretending not to see the very thing that is stopping them. But you cannot fix what you refuse to face, and you cannot grow if you hide from your own mind. When I started Alibaba, I asked myself one question every day. What am I afraid of right now? It wasn't fun. It wasn't comfortable. But it was honest. And honesty gives you power. Because clarity is power. I realized I wasn't afraid of competition. I was afraid of failing in front of the people I cared about. I wasn't afraid of hard work. I was afraid of looking foolish. Once I confronted those truths, they lost their control over me. That's the secret. The moment you face a fear directly, it becomes smaller than you. Every day, ask yourself one hard question. Maybe it's, what am I avoiding? Maybe it's, why haven't I started? Maybe it's, what am I pretending not to know? These questions feel heavy, but they sharpen your vision. Emotional strength isn't built in comfort. It is built in confrontation. The world remembers doers, not talkers, and the difference between the two is the courage to face their own truth. One hard question a day seems simple, almost too simple. But that simplicity is deceptive, because when you face a new truth every day, you grow faster than those who hide from themselves for a lifetime. And slowly, you become someone impossible to shake, someone rooted in clarity instead of confusion. Most people lose their power not because they are weak, but because they allow the world to drain them without permission. Jack Ma often says he was never the smartest, but he learned early that protecting his energy was the only way he could survive rejection after rejection. Every day, people will try to pull you into their fear, their anger, and their endless negativity. And if you don't guard your energy, their noise becomes your identity. True power comes from learning when to say no, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when they call you selfish. Winners build walls around their focus, while complainers beg for attention to escape their own chaos. The moment you protect your emotional space, you stop bleeding energy and start building strength that others cannot touch. You must understand something. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Some people are like black holes. The more you give, the more they take, until nothing is left inside you. Jack Ma himself says that in his early years, he kept helping people who only wanted excuses, never solutions, and that mistake delayed his rise for years. When you protect your energy, you become selective, intentional, and mentally sharp. You start seeing who is using you and who is truly walking with you. Most people treat their energy casually, scrolling endlessly, arguing pointlessly, entertaining noise that produces nothing. But the people who rise protect their energy with the same seriousness that a lion protects its territory. You must decide what feeds you and what drains you. If a habit drains you, remove it. If a person drains you, limit them. If an environment drains you, escape it. You owe yourself the power you keep giving away, because the truth is simple. Your energy determines your destiny. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. When people dream about becoming powerful, they imagine giant leaps, sudden breakthroughs, overnight success, or some miraculous talent. I learned very quickly that's not how life works. True power doesn't arrive in explosions. It arrives quietly in small, consistent improvements. Every day, I focused on building one micro skill, something so small that most people would dismiss it as insignificant. But these tiny gains, repeated day after day, compound into enormous advantage. It could be learning one English word, mastering a tiny piece of software, or improving how I speak to a potential partner. It didn't feel like progress at the moment, but the next year, I could look back and see a completely different version of myself. When I started Alibaba, I wasn't the smartest person in the room, and I certainly wasn't the most talented, but I was willing to get a little better every day. While others waited for the right opportunity, I quietly became 1% stronger each day. Over time, those micro skills added up. They made me sharper, more confident, and harder to ignore. The world only remembers doers, not talkers, and the difference between the two is often one small skill practiced every day. Micro skills build invisible armor, the kind that protects your confidence and allows you to act decisively when the world doubts you. Most people ignore micro skills because they seem boring or too small to matter. But this is the secret. What looks insignificant today shapes your future tomorrow. I've seen people with mediocre talent win against brilliant competitors simply because they refuse to stop improving, even slightly, every day. Your micro skill becomes a signal, a force multiplier, and a weapon. Over months and years, it creates a version of you that is unstoppable, while everyone else is still waiting for luck to find them. The lesson is simple. Don't chase big miracles. Chase tiny improvements. Build one micro skill today, one tomorrow, and another the day after. Before you know it, you will be impossible to ignore. And that, my friends, is how true power grows, from small, relentless actions repeated when no one is watching. Everyone knows the story of Steve Jobs getting fired from Apple, and people love to repeat it like a fairy tale. They say, look, he failed and then succeeded, but most people miss the real lesson. It wasn't the drama that made him powerful, it was the daily actions he committed to during his exile. Every day, Jobs simplified his life, focused on clarity, learned new skills, and removed distractions and people who confused his vision. He didn't become a legend overnight. He became unstoppable by doing small, deliberate things every single day, even when the world had written him off. That is exactly what the 5 daily actions I'm teaching you can do for your life. I remember reading about Jobs during those years and realizing how similar it was to my own struggles. Rejection, ridicule, and failure can make you bitter, or they can make you precise. Jobs chose precision. He asked himself every morning, what can I do today that improves me, that brings me closer to my vision? He didn't focus on revenge or proving the world wrong. He focused on moving his own needle forward, no matter how small. That is the essence of unlocking your true power, the ability to act daily, even when no one believes in you. Think about it. While the world was distracted by headlines, fame, or instant results, Jobs was quietly improving himself skill by skill, day by day. That is the same principle behind the 5 daily actions. Each small choice you make, controlling your first hour, removing weaknesses, asking hard questions, saying no, building micro skills, compounds into massive advantage over time. The world will not notice your growth at first. They may even laugh, doubt, or ignore you. But if you persist, your progress becomes undeniable. The Steve Jobs story is cliché because it works. And it works because the principle of daily focused improvement is universal. You don't need genius. You don't need perfect timing. You need commitment to small, powerful actions every day. Follow this and your own life will tell a story the world never expected. Most people think their biggest obstacles are competitors, markets, or luck. But I have learned something very different. The greatest enemy you will ever face is yourself. Every day, your old self tries to pull you back into comfort, distraction, and weakness. It whispers excuses, it justifies delay, and it celebrates mediocrity. If you do not confront this hidden enemy, it will quietly steal your progress, even while you are working hard. The 5 daily actions I'm teaching you exist for one reason: to fight that enemy and reclaim the part of yourself that is capable, bold, and unstoppable. I remember the early days of Alibaba when every step forward felt like a battle. There were days I wanted to give up, moments when rejection felt personal, and times when fear told me I wasn't enough. But I noticed a pattern. The moments I succeeded were the moments I refused to negotiate with that voice inside me. I stopped listening to the part of myself that said, it's too hard, or wait until later. Instead, I acted. I asked the hard questions, removed weaknesses, and built tiny skills. Slowly, that internal enemy lost control, and I discovered a power I didn't know I had. This enemy is clever because it disguises itself as comfort. It says, rest today, you can try tomorrow. It says, this person isn't worth your time, or it's okay to avoid the difficult task. But every time you give in, the old version of yourself wins. Real growth begins when you refuse to negotiate with this inner voice. Power grows only when you confront yourself, day after day, and take action even when it is uncomfortable. You stop waiting for motivation because you learn that motivation is fragile. Action is permanent. Understand this. The world can challenge you, competitors can pressure you, and opportunities may disappear. But the hidden enemy inside will never stop fighting unless you fight back first. Master that enemy, and the 5 daily actions become more than habits. They become the tools of transformation. The moment you defeat yourself repeatedly, nothing in the world can hold you back. Most people will never talk about the real reason. Some people succeed while others fail. They want to believe it's talent, luck, or connections. But the truth is much simpler and much harder to accept. The 5 daily actions I've shared with you are secret because the world doesn't want you to use them. People fear your growth. Society teaches shortcuts, instant results, and easy wins because if you succeed too fast, it exposes the complacency of the majority. These actions look ordinary, almost harmless, but their power is invisible until you practice them consistently. That's why almost no one will tell you about them. They are too dangerous for the comfort of the status quo. When I started Alibaba, I noticed something striking. Most people I knew were busy with distractions, arguing over petty problems, chasing trends, or waiting for someone else to give them permission to act. Meanwhile, a few of us quietly controlled our mornings, removed weaknesses, asked the hard questions, said no, and built micro skills. No one noticed us at first. No one applauded. But slowly, that quiet discipline turned into unstoppable momentum. By the time the world realized what we were doing, the difference was already too large to ignore. That is the power of secrecy. The work that no one sees becomes the advantage no one can match. These 5 daily actions rebuild your identity from the inside out. They create a version of you that is impossible to predict, impossible to distract, and impossible to control. Mediocre people thrive on predictability. They need you weak to feel normal. But when you start acting consistently, quietly, and relentlessly, you step outside of that system. That is why your power seems like a secret. It isn't hidden by chance. It is hidden by design, because true transformation is always invisible at first. When others are still complaining, you are already moving. When others are waiting for luck, you are already creating it. And that is why the world benefits from you staying weak until you choose to stop listening. If you follow these 5 actions every single day, something remarkable happens. You don't just change, you become unrecognizable. I have seen it myself. I was once a man rejected by every job I applied for, laughed at by classmates, and doubted by almost everyone around me. Yet, by focusing on small, deliberate actions day after day, I transformed myself and built Alibaba. The secret is consistency. One day of discipline may feel small, one week may feel insignificant, but 365 days of deliberate action compounds into unstoppable power. The world won't see it at first, and that's the beauty of it. While others chase instant results, you are quietly engineering your destiny. Every morning you control, every weakness you remove, every hard question you face, every no you say, and every micro skill you build creates layers of strength. At first, the changes are invisible. People may even question why you are doing it. But the day will come when your clarity, your confidence, and your discipline become undeniable. Opportunities will start finding you, challenges will seem smaller, and fear will no longer control your decisions. You stop chasing motivation because motivation is fragile. You have built identity, resilience, and unstoppable momentum. That is the power of 365 days of intentional action. Think about it. 1 year of consistent small steps can create a person that others struggle to ignore, a person who commands attention, respect, and results without needing to shout or prove themselves. This is not luck. This is design. This is the 1% improvement that compounds into a life-changing force. Your future is not found by wishing, waiting, or hoping. It is built quietly, deliberately, day by day. And when you reach the end of this year, you will see clearly true power isn't discovered. It is constructed daily, brick by brick, action by action, until nothing can stop you. This is your chance to stop being ordinary. Start now, stay consistent, and after 365 days, you will no longer recognize the person staring back in the mirror. That person will be unstoppable.